Hello, tile friends! Welcome back to another episode of the Tile Money Podcast. My name is Luke Miller, your host. This podcast, Tile Money, is strengthening the tile industry. We're doing this with our business education designed for contractors by contractors. This education is assisting tile contractors around the world to build sustainable, profitable businesses. The result is a stronger industry from the installer up. Today I have another great guest with me. I have Bob Engel, the owner of Classic Tileworks, located in the state of Ohio. We're going to be discussing his passion for his craft, his business, how he's gotten where he is, the day-to-day struggles of wearing so many hats that we all feel. So we look forward to this great discussion. Before I bring Bob on into the studio though, I do want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Laticrete International. Thank you, Laticrete, for being a sponsor of this podcast for the last few years. I met David Rothberg in late 2018. I had just launched the podcast just maybe 30 days, 60 days prior to the International Surfaces event. And I met David for the first time, and I talked with him and told him what I was doing, and he took an interest in it, and his eyes lit up when I told him that it was a business education podcast for tile contractors to strengthen their business. And they've been supporting me ever since. Thank you, David, Ron Nash, and the entire Laticrete team for being so supportive of tile contractors and recognizing their position in the industry and the fact that you're investing your money and also your talent by sharing your knowledge on the podcast from time to time says a lot. So thank you very much, Laticrete International. I also want to give a plug for my new company, Tile Nation. Together with my three partners, we are providing advanced education for tile contractors, tile installers. We're doing this with our 3 and 5 day Porcelain Panel training class, and we have a 5,000 square foot warehouse in Omaha, Nebraska. We have multiple learning opportunities throughout the year, and we also have some virtual opportunities to learn. Visit thetilenation.com, thetilenation.com to learn more. Stay in touch with Luke, me, and don't miss any new opportunities. If you join the Tile Nation texting service, we will text you twice a month to let you know about upcoming learning opportunities and events. All you have to do is text the one word, Tile Nation, no space, to the phone number 877-630-3260. 877-630-3260. All right, welcome to the podcast, Robert.
Hi, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for agreeing to be on. I appreciate it. What are you doing today? Where are you at, and what does your business look like today?
So right now I'm in my home office, and when we're done here, I'll be heading down to a job site to see how things are going. We're in a very high-end custom home, and my one subcontractor, whom I consider a partner, he's down there busy working on the son's shower. So and I'll be heading down there to do a powder room, and then together we're tackling the master shower next week, which is probably one of the hugest master showers I've ever been in. So it's a good job.
Yeah. Nice. That sounds awesome. Is that the kind of work you specialize in, custom homes?
I would like to specialize in that all the time, but we get a couple of those a year. But we spend most of our time in the residential remodel market.
Okay. Well, that's a good market as well.
Mm-hmm.
How large is your company?
So currently it is just me and my friend Matt. So, and he's a young man. He's in his 30s now, but he came on when he was 18 as a helper. Mm-hmm. And he learned the trade and took it seriously. And now he can do anything I can. So he represents me very well, and we work together very well too. So we were bigger, and we lost one of our installers in death in February 2020, before the pandemic. It wasn't pandemic related. And then a helper left and went on to another job. And so it's just been the two of us, and you know, it's been okay. We're very happy with what we make. But you know, at one time I had 7 people total, including myself. Mm-hmm. And that was many years ago. But you know, right now it's just the two of us, and it's a little easier to manage, that's for sure. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Two-man crew, especially somebody that you've trained for the last dozen years. That's powerful. That can be a very good spot to be in. Why don't we back up though? I would like to hear the story, kind of the progression of how you entered the trade, and then just walk us through, basically how you went out on your own and got started, and then we'll go from there.
okay. Well, for the first 6 or 7 years after high school, I wasted those years partying and hanging out
Sure.
with, some rough individuals. And I was a rough individual myself. And then when I finally slowed down and had time to think, I met my wife, and we got married in 2000. And then shortly thereafter, we had a baby on the way. And at this time, I was working third shift at a gas station, making about $7 an hour, and I was like, "Uh-oh,
Mm.
I gotta, I gotta start taking things a little more serious now."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got a friend.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. And and so I started looking for work, and didn't really know what to do. But then I had a friend in my congregation who had a flooring company that he did tile and he also did pergo. And he had a helper recently quit. So he asked me, he goes, "Do you want to learn a trade?" And I said, "Sure." So I started working for him, making a little bit more. And he would tell me about the business and the potential that it had. And so it was something that very interested me a lot. So that was about January 2002. And then by May of 2005, I had started my own business and went out on my own. And that was kind of maybe a short bit of time. I still had more to learn once I went on my own. I found out. Um, but before then, what had happened was I was installing backsplashes, I was doing tub surrounds, and but I didn't get to do a lot of the big stuff. I was still mostly the cement board and grout guy. But then he had a big job come up in Pennsylvania that was going to require that we leave and get a hotel for 2 or 3 weeks, and I wasn't willing to leave my family for 3 weeks. I just flat out said I wasn't doing it. And so he set me up with another project that he had going on here in Ohio, and it was a $1 million home, and he showed me the plans, and he told me where to pick up the tile and what tile went in what room and what pattern. And he said, go ahead and have at it, but if for any reason you think you can't do it, then don't. He was really nervous about letting me do this on my own, but I had something to prove, so I did it. And so I did all the rooms in this high-end custom home, except for the master shower and the master bath, which was that was really intricate stuff. But we had uneven floors, and I'm building up, and I got to the end of that, and that job was my light bulb moment. That's when I was like, "Hey, I can do anything he can do."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started talking about some of my goals: to make more money, to have my wife stay home with the kids so she didn't have to work, and so I suggested maybe he could pay me like he pays the other subcontractor, because I knew what he was making, and none of it was really coming together as fast as I wanted. So I started my own business, and I wasn't secret about it. I'd tell him at lunch, "Hey, I registered my LLC. Now I'm advertising in the classifieds. I have a side job after work today. I got a job this weekend." And he was completely okay with all of it. And then I landed a job. I eventually landed a job that was going to take me probably 2 or 3 weeks solo. But I just can't do that in the evenings and the weekends. So, so I told him about it, and we arranged for me to take the time off to do that job. And then while I was doing that job, I closed another deal. And then while I was closing on that job, I closed a couple more deals. The next thing you know, several months have gone by, and I told him, I was like, I don't think I'm coming back to work for you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was it. So since then, I've been self-employed.
Right.
And I have worked for him as a subcontractor, and he has worked for me as a subcontractor a couple times.
Oh, there you go.
So the relationship was still good.
That's awesome. It's really important. Good for you guys, and good for you for handling that in a professional way, and being able to leave that door open for future opportunities. I mean, that is really, you know, as a two-person business, you know, that's really going to be so helpful, as you found out and as you know, because it's like you can't take all the jobs, and sometimes the best thing to do is, you know, sub it out and make a smaller percentage, but still keep things busy and everybody's working and happy. That's really cool. So how, tell me now, thank you for sharing those early years. That's an exciting story. And one that we can relate to. I mean, I can just, you know, kind of sense what your boss must have been going through. I mean, he probably knew the writing was on the wall. He probably knew for a while that that was the direction you're headed. So that's probably why he was like, you know, I can see it in you that you're going to go out. You know, was there any of that kind of discussion with him?
Uh, Not, I didn't pick up on that at the time. At the time, I was kind of irritated because I wanted to make more money and I wanted my wife to be home, and I felt
Yeah.
like I wasn't being heard, you
Oh yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I do think that uh, having me in this position was probably his end game, you know. So you know, it was a matter of teach me a trade and then I can take it from there. I
Yeah.
really think that was what he was thinking all along. So
Sure.
and that's what happened. So he's retired now, and he tried to refer me to all his former clients. So you know the relationship there is still really good. You know,
Oh, that's
at the
great.
time I was like 29 years old, 30, had a young family, and I'm like, I need to make money. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're feeling the pressure too. I mean, I can totally relate to that pressure of, you know, the young family, not quite enough money coming in. Um, but it just goes to show you never know how things are going to work out, because now I'm sure you're, you know, as it sounds, you're super happy the way things worked out. It's really important. I mean, I'm reminded daily, like little reminders like this. Take emotions out of business. Whenever it comes to business decisions, it's like you got to think long term. And at, you know, at a young age, we're not as capable of that. Even at an older age, it's like we forget, think long term, and we get caught up in that moment. But that's a cool story. So now take me to the spot where you're growing and growing, and you kind of got up to, you know, your peak business, like 7 employees. How did that work out? Like, did you just start hiring and just got busier and busier? It sounds like.
So when I went out on my own, it was classified ads. It was a lot of, I would say, low end work,
Mm,
but it was still money, and I could take what I could get.
mm,
And then I got a van, and I wanted to letter my van, and so I went down here to the local sign shop, and we made a sweat equity deal. He would letter my van if I tiled his backsplash,
nice.
even Steven.
Yeah.
And so I tiled the backsplash, and they hired an interior designer, and it was one of the craziest backsplashes I've ever tiled. And in other words, he got a really good deal.
Mm,
But it worked out for me too, because it turns out that this his wife was the ex-wife of a builder, and the
mm,
builder came to pick up his daughter for visitations, and he saw me doing this backsplash,
mm.
and he's in desperate need of a tile setter because he does spec homes and custom homes,
Sure.
and he's not happy with the guy that he has. So I gave him my business card, and he hooked me up with one of his job supervisors, and we toured a couple houses, and next thing I know, I had this builder that was churning out houses like crazy.
Mm.
And so that was good because I learned the trade working for builders and working in custom homes. So this is exactly where I wanted to be. And so there was a lot of work, and he had me, and he had these other tile guys that he wasn't thoroughly impressed with. And every once in a while, I'd have to go to one of these other houses and fix something that these other tile guys did.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, just give it all to me,
Yeah.
give it all to me. And I started looking for people who could help me out, that were more qualified. And the reason for that, it's actually kind of goes back to the origin story a little bit. We were doing a custom home one time, and as a helper, the homeowner would come in and with the builder and kind of float by and talk to my boss, and as the helper, nobody talked to you.
Mm.
And but I was staying late one evening grouting, and he comes in and he sits down and he starts talking to me, And I talked to him about he owned a local advertising company, and that's how he made his money, was like these monthly periodicals where you can get the pizza coupons and everything. That's what he did. But he made a statement that always resonated with me, and I never forgot about it. And he said, "Success is about creating opportunities for other people." And so that became like my motto. Was I was going to try and expand my business. I'll take on all the tile work, and I'll find guys to do it, because I knew guys that were looking for work at the time. And so I eventually grew, and I had, at one point, we were a crew of 7, including myself. And me and my helper, we would be on one house. We'd do the cement board and the waterproofing for the showers, because all the important stuff is in the prep work. And then we'd put an installer on it, set in tile, and we'd go prep the next house and put another installer and his helper tiling that one while we prepped the third house. By the time we got prepping that house, then the installer we had on the first house was ready to move on to the next house.
Nice.
And it was just a smooth running machine that we did that for an entire year. And I remember sitting outside looking at this development with all these empty lots. And I was telling my helper, I was like, starting my own business is the greatest thing I've ever done. And I was like, look at all these lots. I was like, I am set for years. And then 2008 happened. They never dug another hole, at least not for like 6 more years.
Right.
And I ended up letting everybody go.
Yeah.
And because the new home construction work, completely dried up. And that's where I was completely focused. All my eggs were in that basket, pretty much in this one builder's basket. I had a couple other builders, but I was primarily working for the one. I let everybody go. And for the next 2 years, I would sit around and then just get excited when the phone rang, when the business line rang, and I'd go out and do a job by myself. And it was rough, because we were used to this certain lifestyle. We had paid off all the credit cards and everything. And then all of a sudden the cash flow, the pipeline dried up. And then it was like back to ramen noodles,
Yeah. Back to ramen noodles for a lot of people back in those, back in 2008, 2009. Those were rough years for a lot of people. A lot of hard lessons to learn. I mean, of course, timing on unforeseen occurrences. But a lot of those lessons are applicable today, like the one you shared, not putting all the eggs in one basket. I encourage my audience, to have a builder you work for, to have a couple builders you work for, to have a stream of residential remodel work that you're working directly for the consumer that you work for, to know multiple different angles and multiple different sources of work in your community, whether that be little niches or, just like I'm saying, multiple builders, multiple different ways of advertising. Because it's like, if you're putting all your advertising even into Facebook, well, that's a mistake, because it's on one platform. You don't own that platform. That platform is not the internet. That platform is owned by somebody, and they change the rules all the time. So I would suggest Facebook, Google, YouTube, something of this nature, a few different avenues of advertising, a few avenues of getting work. Any other lessons from that era that you applied to your business to strengthen it to get to where you are today?
So, well, that's it. Don't do that again. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so, I tried to get into the remodel market. And I did, it was slow going, because everybody in new construction was also trying to rush over into the remodel market. So there was just so many workers and not a lot of work. And I even thought about, forget this. I'm going to go to college and become an RN. I'm like, I'm done. And a lot of people I know left the trade, and started doing other things, but I couldn't think about I couldn't imagine going to school, like an accelerated course, doing clinicals on the weekends, still trying to run my business. And then in 3 or 4 years have, I could just, my children wouldn't know me and my wife would be gone. I mean, that was my fear, if I was just disappear in that respect. So I didn't do it. I just stuck with it. And then in 2010, things started to trickle upwards to the point where I needed a helper again. So that's when Matt joined me. He is right out of high school. He delivered pizza for a little bit, and then he left that job, and I needed a helper. So I'm like, hey, come work for me.
Nice.
And so he worked for me as a helper, and after a few years, I got him installing backsplashes. And I had this one account where we were doing all their backsplashes for a local refacing company, and I just sent Matt to do it, to the point where he hates backsplashes. He doesn't want to do another one ever again. And but for the longest time, I didn't think he was going to actually. I didn't think he had the aptitude for it. I didn't think he would stick around. But then one day he got engaged, and all of a sudden,
oh sure,
same thing. He got engaged, and all of a sudden he wanted to. He's like, I want to learn this. Let me get on my knees. Let me spread the mortar. Let me set some tile.
Yeah.
Instead of just running cuts all the time. So we did, and he's excellent. So he's even more, he's probably more meticulous than I am, so nice. he does very good now. So then in 2012, my previous boss was downscaling, and he called me up and he said that he feels bad because he's not giving Mark work anymore. Mark was the subcontractor that I knew. And I would have worked with Mark all the time, back in 2002. And, that's the one that's like, hey, pay me like you pay Mark, And so he called me up and he said, do you have any work? Because, he's downsizing. He has no work for Mark, and he feels pretty bad.
Yeah.
Mark was like amazing. And so I jumped on that opportunity right away. I never approached Mark about doing work for me because, out of respect for my previous boss, I wasn't going to take his subs from him.
Yeah.
And but as soon as he opened that door, I called Mark, and Mark worked for me up until he died. And so for the last several years, we were a crew of 4. It was me, Matt, and Mark, and then we had a helper. And we would pass the helper on to whoever needed the helper most that day.
Sure.
And then in 2019, the helper left, and we were okay with that. And then Mark's health was deteriorating, and then he died in February of 2020 of COPD. And then I told Matt, I'm like, well, I'm going to hire another helper, and I'm going to start bringing on some more subs. And then in March, the coronavirus hit, and everything started shutting down. And I thought, whoa, I was like, this is going to be 2008 all over again. And with everything shutting down, this is bad news. You were watching the stock market do a free fall.
Yeah.
And so I told Matt, I was like, you know what, forget it. Let's just worry about putting food on our tables.
Yeah.
And so I didn't hire. And then, to everybody's surprise, the exact opposite happened.
Right.
The market went soaring. And now, instead of being 6 weeks out on the schedule, we're 8-9 months out on the schedule, and I can't get any subs because they're all 8-9 months out on their schedule too. There's so much work in the area; it's ridiculous. So good, but it's unprecedented right now.
Yeah, it sure is. Sure is. It's pretty wild out there.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier I wanted to reiterate here was when we're hiring employees, I learned pretty fast to look for employees that had a decent amount of responsibility at home. Like you mentioned, either married or had a child on the way or had a couple kids. I learned pretty quick that those guys were going to actually show up 5 days a week for the most part. Typically, you would hope. But you got a much better chance, and you can see it in their eyes when they come to you and they apply for a job and they talk about their family, and that's kind of one of their motivations for coming to work. That typically I learned would tell me that this person's going to give it a go. They're going to give it all they got.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I've had the helpers that I've had that have been good. The most recent helper was married. The previous helper was actually a single mother. And then the helper before that was also married. But then I've had a couple of helpers there. I tried, like I did with Matt, pull them right out of high school. And I had a couple that they wanted to stand around and watch me work while they were on Facebook,
Sure.
and I'd send someone out for a cut, and then I'm sitting there like waiting for this cut,
Yeah.
where is it? Where is he at? And I go outside, and the cut's sitting on the saw, not even cut yet, and he's on his phone smoking a cigarette. I'm like, oh my gosh. I took his phone, threw it in my van, locked the door. I'm like, you can have that back at 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
And so you're right. I got lucky with Matt, but it does seem that those that have some responsibilities at home are take work in general more seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It does for sure. So when you're selling your value, selling yourself, and what you can offer to your clients, how do you define your value? A lot of people have trouble with that value statement of a tile contractor, because I'm sure, is it the same way in Ohio as it is most places? There's a lot of tile installers.
So yeah, there's a lot of tile installers, and I would say that what sets me apart is that most tile guys most area tile guys, I'll keep it local.
Sure.
Most area tile guys give tile guys a bad name.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so we've got, just workmanship that is subpar. People that aren't very clean, smoke like a volcano, use bad language around kids. There's a lot of people that just don't carry themselves as professional. They look like shady individuals. And that's kind of where I say, that's the beginning of where I define my value is like, we're non-smokers. We don't cuts. We clean up daily. We drive nice vehicles. And also our workmanship is really what sets us apart. I've got a website with a plethora of photos.
I saw that. You got a lot of content on there.
Yeah. And so, our work is done just right. We work exclusively with Laticrete. Mm-hmm. And so we offer that Laticrete warranty, mm-hmm. So a lot of the local guys, they've got that tail light warranty,
Yeah.
But, we come in and we're like, everything we do starts at the 10-year tier and can go up from there. And then
how many tiers do you keep it? Like 3 tiers or?
Oh, it's whatever Laticrete offers.
Sure.
So,
which is like,
we start with the 10-year product, and then they have I think they have a 10, 15, 25 and lifetime.
I think so.
And so, we can move up the ladder if they want a longer warranty from the manufacturer. 10's usually good enough. Those are good products, and it's going to last forever anyway.
Right.
If you do it right, it's going to last. I could use the 5-year warranty stuff, and I could mix and match different brands and still produce a shower that's going to last forever.
Yeah.
I do everything according to industry standards. You have to know what those standards are. I joined the NTCA, so I market that. So I market the fact that I'm in the Tile Contractors Association. I market that we use Laticrete exclusively and that you have their warranties. And I also market that I am, and a lot of people online hate this, I am a no down payment company. Pay me when we're done. And so and the only time I change that is if they're buying tile through me from the local distributor, we'll ask for that up front. And if the job goes on longer than 2 weeks, like we're in this $1 million home right now, we're going to be in there for 2 months. So I send a progress payment in. I think we've been down there for a month, and I finally decided to send a progress bill in.
Yeah.
Because 2 months is a long time to go with no cash flow. So
yeah.
But for the remodel market, that's how I set myself apart from my competition. Is this guy might come in at this price, but he wants half of it down, and he starts talking in abstract concepts when you bring up a warranty. And then I'm like, 10 years, yes, I'm a little higher, but you're gonna love it when we're done. No money down, just pay me when you're smiling. And so I'm able to close jobs that way. So between that, my website, my reviews, I do that. That's how I market myself. That's how I present myself.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Now with the no money down, I'm not a fan of that model, but I do have to say, if it works for you, it works for you. And typically, what I found the people who that works for is they're the owner operator, or they have, like you, 1 employee, maybe 2 employees, like a smaller business. I think the larger you scale, the more risky that becomes. Now, do you have them sign a contract? out of curiosity?
Yes. So, and in Ohio, if it's under $25,000, you can do that over email. So I'll email the proposal. You'll have a PDF that QuickBooks generates with the estimate, and then I have a PDF called Backpage PDF. So it's back in the days we used to print it and actually sign it. And I just say, like, in the email, like, reply to this email saying that you accept these you've read these documents and you accept the terms therein. And that's a contract, because then I have it in writing. So that's an acceptance in writing. So and they have to say very clearly, yes, I have read both documents and agreed to the terms therein. So,
okay.
Yeah. So they have to use that language. They don't just reply with a thumbs up.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, that would be the way I would recommend it if you're gonna, because certainly that is a selling point. I can see that. I can see why customers like that. The warranties. Tell me a little bit more about the warranties. It's interesting to me that most people, you say, choose the 10-year warranty. Is that correct?
Well, that's what I start my estimates at. So when I provide the estimate, I always tell people I start at the 10-year tier. So if I give an estimate at like $5,000, it includes all the products that are going to get a 10-year Laticrete warranty. And then if they want to move up to, if they want the 25-year or the lifetime, then most of the time it's only a difference in mortar, So, so it's an increased cost in mortar, and then it's an increased cost of the convenience of having the extra warranty also.
So the increase goes up maybe 15 to 25%. It sounds like.
Yes.
I mean, the next one up. Okay.
Between 10-year and lifetime, yeah, that would be about right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that ain't bad. And then for the website, you get a lot of calls from your website. I mean, it looks like you have a lot of information, a lot of photos, a lot of good SEO juice, which probably generates some phone calls for you.
Yeah, so that's my number. Well, I would say that I don't advertise. I don't advertise at all. And but my website generates a lot of estimate requests, and a lot of phone calls I think are coming from Google or through Google over to my website, and it performs very well for me. I would say it's my number one
lead generator.
Yeah, I don't want to call it advertising. I guess it is advertising, but
sure.
I don't do paid advertising. But yeah, it's my number one lead generator is my website. So I get a lot of referrals. And but as far as if it's not a referral, the person's coming through my website.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it performs very well. So I know you're in the business of websites too. With the Happy Tile guy, and although I'm not a client, I would definitely steer anybody listening in that direction, because I think that's critical to success as a businessman in this day and age, is having a good website. So,
Yeah, no, I think you appreciate the testimony there, Robert. I'm always curious, because, and a lot of guys or contractors will say, well, we have Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Well, that might be true, but people are still searching on the internet for a tile contractor near me, and those YouTube will show up, but Instagram won't. I don't think Facebook will, or maybe it does a little bit on the public page, like if you have a business profile. So always do a business profile, but really that website, I mean, that's what sells people. That's what they want to see. I don't just talk to contractors. I talk to consumers. And I ask them, I'm in a lot of consumer orientated groups, and I've been asking them, how do you hire a contractor? And most of them will say, research, and look at their website as a big part of their process. I've had people tell me, if a contractor doesn't have a website, I just figure they're not the contractor for me. Or, there's just 6 other sites to look at, so they go look at those sites to get to know the contractor. So it does make a difference. Now, once you get those the calls coming in on your phone, tell me about your customer screening process and how you go about then doing the estimate and proposal management.
So right now, I used to go out and meet every person, but right now there's so many coming in that the first thing I do is talk to them, and I lead right away with my schedule.
Hmm.
So my first thing they have to be okay with is the fact that if they're talking about a shower or a significant size floor, we're looking at 2023 now.
Hmm.
Because I've got a waiting list that's going to easily eat up the rest of this year and
Yeah.
probably bleed over into 2023. So they got to be in the planning and budgeting phase. They can't be in the I just demoed my room.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. If they have a backsplash, I'll talk to them about possibly squeezing it in, because a backsplash is a day and a half or 2 days. I might be able to finish a job on a Thursday. I can do a backsplash Friday, grab Saturday before I start the next big project.
Hmm.
So I find out, I talk to them about the time, let them know what my timeline is, and then I ask them what sort of project that what kind of tile project are they looking to do,
Hmm.
and then if they're okay with the time, ask right now to email me some pictures
Hmm.
so I can see the area, because most tile work these days is showers and splashes. I should rename my business Classic Shower and Splash.
Yeah.
Because the days of doing 1,500 square foot floors don't seem to be in right now. So that's
Yeah.
if it's tile, it's just the master bathroom. It's not the whole house like it used to be.
Yeah.
And so usually a typical shower is 3x5. They can send me a picture. I can see what's there and kind of already tell what I got to do to take it out and replace it. And then I'll give them a ballpark price range.
Hmm.
And if they're okay with that, then I'll tell them, go pick out your tile, because they're the type of tile and the pattern and any design elements is going to affect that price. And then I'll come out and I'll measure, so we have accurate measurements of what to order, and I can refine their quote. So I'll start with the ballpark figure after looking at some pictures, and if the timeline hasn't scared them, and if the ballpark price hasn't scared them, then usually we're good to meet, because I'm probably gonna have a sale at that point. So.
Hmm. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that. I find that, process to be one of the most successful processes, especially nowadays, when people are used to doing a little more work, virtually, sending pictures and whatnot. And it really helps to be able to price the jobs. Speaking of pricing, what is your preference, square foot or day rate, and how do you come up with those prices?
So both, and I have a day rate in mind, and I apply my day rate to things that you just can't go by square foot. So like a backsplash or a fireplace or an incredibly small bathroom floor, you have to think in terms of day rate. And then I do have a formula of square foot and linear foot pricing that I use for floors, and I still apply them to showers at the moment, although I'm thinking about just flat day rating that. But it's still based on, like, you take your average floor and your average shower, like the 3x5 tub surround, or that 3x5 shower rather. And I just think about, how long does it take me to do the pan? How long does it take me to do the board? How long does it take me to set the tile? How much more does it take me if it's diagonal, herringbone, et cetera? I've gone through and I've refined every single custom element and assigned a square foot price to it based on how fast I can get it done. And
Sure.
the calculations work out to where if I go there and I work and if I'm not lazy and I'm not chatting it up all the time, then I'm making my day rate.
Sure.
So the square foot formulas are based on the day rate. So
That's the best answer. I love it. That's my answer as well. Tell me, Robert, I know you're at one employee. It sounds like you're pretty comfortable there. Do you have plans for growth? And if not in personnel, maybe in other avenues of growth? And how are you going to reach those goals that you've set for yourself?
So I was up to 7 at one time. I would do it again if
Okay.
I could find the right guys. And so right now the finding qualified talent
Mm-hmm.
finding people that are happy being subcontractors. That seems to be very difficult at the moment. There's so much work. Nobody has to sub because they can go out and get their own work, and so I'm finding that very difficult right now. So I want to bring on, maybe I might try and do the start from scratch thing, bring on a helper, teach them the trade. And then I also might I've thought about trying a employee type arrangement rather than a subcontractor type arrangement, where we'll offer an hourly rate with maybe so much vacation per year, maybe a 401k, and it's all a numbers game. You got to just figure out how you have to make the numbers work, and try and entice someone that way who maybe they don't want to be a contractor. They don't want to be a subcontractor. They don't want to deal with quarterly payments and the IRS after them all the time. Maybe just come in, do your job, get a check, have some paid vacation. That might be the person I look for next. So I've got some ideas spinning around, but I'm pretty busy, so I haven't really had a lot of time to put them into practice, because I'm either in the office wearing the office hat, or I'm out in the field setting tile covered in mud, and or I'm at home and my kids are older now, so I got to entertain them when I get home, and you just can't sit them in front of the TV anymore. They want to interact and do fun stuff. So.
Sure.
So there's a time crunch too, but I don't technically have to grow, because Matt and I are both right now extremely satisfied with the way things are going and what we make. So I don't need to grow with the view to make any more. We're content when it comes to how we're pulling in financially, what the company brings in, and what I end up getting and what Matt ends up getting. And but the fact of the matter is there's a couple. I get a few phone calls a day, and I'm telling them all 2023, and then most of them hang up. They're
Oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to ask. I forgot was it sounds like not a lot of people want to wait, huh? Right. That weeds out a lot, like 70-80% of the phone calls.
Yes, for sure. And I've actually found that to be a good thing, because 5 years ago, the phone would ring, we'd try and take everything we could get.
Yeah.
And even if it was small, it didn't matter. We flip it over to the daily rate. It doesn't matter. If they're willing to pay the daily rate, we're willing to do it. And well, what's nice is we can be more picky and choosy with our work now.
Yeah.
And the quality of work, it kind of filters itself out. So like the individuals who they've already gutted their own bathroom, they hung their own hardy board, and all they need is a tile guy. I'm like,
weed them out right away. Yeah.
Sorry, we're all Laticrete. We do everything from top to bottom. A few years ago, sure, I'll come out and set that tile, but now I don't even want it. I don't want to deal with it. So I like my current system, where you got the warranty, we do everything. Yeah. And that person that did all that, they don't want to wait till 2023 anyway. So I don't have to tell them. I don't want your work. Yeah. I tell them I'm booked through 2023, and they're like, "Oh, that's no good. I have no bathroom."
Right. Yeah.
And so it filters itself out. So that has been the benefit of being extremely busy and extremely booked, is that those who are willing to wait, those who want a good tile guy, are willing to wait for good work and are willing to pay for good work. That's usually the same person. Yeah. He's willing to wait, willing to pay, wants good work. That's the client that I want. Yeah. And so those are the ones that will send me the pictures and have me out to their house. And if they say if it's February, if it's next February, that's okay. We just want it done right. And that's awesome. Those are the clients that I want. And that's happening automatically. Yeah. Because of how busy we are and how understaffed we are. So
I love it. That's a powerful testimony. That's what I figured, was people who are willing to wait longer will pay more as well. And they're probably willing to work a little harder, or, not that it's work, but they're willing to go through a little more pain to get a lot more pleasure. Right. Because they're like, we really want this bathroom to be perfect. We've heard about Robert. We've heard about his, what he can do through a referral or your website or however they found you. That's exciting. That's really cool, man. Well, listen, it's been about 45 minutes. I think that's a good spot to wrap this up, unless I forgot something, but I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience with the Tile Money audience. Appreciate you sharing. I know you're active in the Facebook group as well. Thank you for that. Appreciate having you around, Robert. A lot of people are going to benefit from this.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on, and I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, tile friends, until next week out there, please stay positive out there. If you want to stay in touch with me and Tile Money and Tile Nation, please join Tile Nation's texting service. I'll be texting you twice a month to let you know about upcoming learning opportunities and events. All you have to do is text the word Tile Nation, one word, to the phone number 877-633260. Tile friends, talk to you next week, and please stay profitable out there, tile friends. Over and out.